I've paid thousands of dollars in courses to learn what you're basically teaching on your podcast for free. What you're putting out there is so valuable. So, I just really want to acknowledge you, and I definitely send everyone to your podcast.
You were virtually one of the first mentors that I looked up to and started following. You're always one step ahead of the game. So I just wanted to give you kudos and props for that, because lots of people are watching, lots of people are learning from it.
Tucker and the whole TTM crew, Dan and Chris, thanks so much for your support. I love what you guys do, and a huge, huge fan. Having this support's huge. So I'm grateful for that.
What's up, everybody out there in listener land? This is episode 258 of the Real Dealz podcast, and I am your host, as always, Tucker Merrihew. I'm back. I've got another great episode for you guys this week. I'm on a tear, as some of our listeners have said. So the last couple episodes they really enjoyed. My man Casey out there said that I've got a little extra edginess to me. So I'm trying to be entertaining, guys. I'm trying to grab your attention, and I'm trying to deliver you guys a great product. So I appreciate you noticing. But hey, this week's show is gonna be a banger, that's for sure. But before we get into it, make sure you check out last week's if you did not. If you're one of the few that may be listening to this, didn't listen to last week's show, I had Crazy Uncle Carl on, and we talked all about his crazy stories, that's for sure. A lot of squatter talk, a lot of weird lawsuit talk, a lot of partition sale talk, just a lot of really in the weeds stuff, but good stuff. And the overarching theme there is that he's finding a lot of deals from his tax delinquent list. So go check out that show if you have not already. A lot of good golden nuggets buried within that interview, that's for sure. Now this week's show, I've got another fantastic guest for you. And I actually went on this individual show a couple of weeks ago, and so I'm returning the favor and I'm having him over here. We had some great conversation. He's a hilarious guy, but also a very smart dude. And he's doing a lot of stuff in the world of multifamily as well, which is a world that I'm very interested in. We don't do as much. We're more of a single family operation at the moment. But, I've had a lot of people over the years that say, you gotta change the heading of the ship. And I agree. I do agree. But we're clearing the deck this year, and we'll probably start into some other stuff next year with existing construction multi and whatnot. But that being said, I want to talk to people that kind of invest in a little bit different asset classes than I do, at least as their focus, because I want to give some variance in what we talk about here on the show. I love the world of single family, but the reality is that the world of multifamily is where you pay no taxes, and that's a great place to be, and you can make profit and cash flow at the same time. So anyway, I'm bringing my man on, Mr. Brayand Ponciano, and I'm hoping I'm saying that right, not to be confused with Lucky Luciano, right? Bad joke, but AKA they call him BP. We'll just call him BP from now on, and AKA the cash flow creator. He's got all kinds of superhero nicknames for the real estate investor world, but he's a great dude. He's got an amazing amount of knowledge, and it's a really entertaining show, so I know you guys are gonna dig it, and we'll get into it here in just a second. Now, before we get into all of that, as always, I have my housekeeping items that I like to address, and this week I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, and usually I'm pretty professional, and I'm going to be professional, I guess, but I'm going to tell you guys how it is out there in listener land. For the last 4 years, we've been building this thing called the Driving for Dollars app, and it's an amazing piece of technology that allows you to basically skip trace while you're driving around and you're building lists that are Driving for Dollars lists, which are the best leads that you can pull, in my opinion, in terms of the property or the house itself. Now, there's underlying outside factors that contribute to motivation that a lot of times Driving for Dollars leads show up on those other lists as well, so you have some overlap, but visually, they're the best leads that you can get. And so we've built this piece of technology. It's an awesome thing. It's something we use every week in our own business here. But here's the thing. We built it as investors for investors. And in doing so, we created a billing structure that basically allows you guys to use it in good faith, we'll call it, right? And so we've been doing Driving for Dollars for, over 10 years. We know what a reasonable amount of Driving for Dollars leads are on any given day, in any given month, by any given investor. And unfortunately, we have people that if you give them enough rope, they hang themselves. And we put a post out this past week that said that we were going to have to change our pricing structure, basically meaning that we have to put a cap on certain people, which really means everybody. And the reason being is because if we don't, then we just get abused by the assholes of the world, who literally are like my 3-year-old daughter. If I send her down the candy aisle and she just grabs all the candy she can just for the sake of grabbing it, not because she can actually eat it. And so there's a few people out there that have been abusing the app and taking the little bit of rope that we gave them and hanging themselves. And so at the end of the day, we have to adjust the way that the app runs. And so we have to put a cap on what people can pull. We're going to have some tiered pricing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want the app to be around, that's what we have to do in order to make sure that the assholes of the world don't take full advantage of the nicety that we created, which is an investor-built app for investors, and not a software company that built it purely for profit. So that's what it is, folks. And we put a post out there. There were a lot of people online that were just bitching and moaning. And honestly, I wanted to reach through the computer and punch every single one of them, because here's the thing is we had people that are pulling thousands and thousands of leads, which is great if they're legitimate. But then on the flip side, they're complaining that they're only paying $35 a month to be able to skip trace thousands of leads. So if you go do the math on what it counts to actually, or what it costs to actually skip trace those leads, if you call any skip trace provider, it's going to be a big multiple of that $35 a month. And so with that being said, maybe do that before you go online and you vomit your opinion all over everything. And so I wish that we could leave things the way that they were and everybody would use it the way that it was intended, but human nature gets the best of some people, and that's just the way that it is. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a better product, I think, because it'll protect us first and foremost. But number two is we know what everybody pulls. We monitor every bit of data that happens and exactly how much everybody pulls on the average user pulls every day, every month. And so we know what the right amount of data is for you guys, that we'll call it the 98% of people that use the app. We know. And so we're building our tiers around that so it takes care of the 98%. The 2% outliers, who are basically just a giant pain in our ass, whether it be complaining or abusing, we're not building the app for you. And that's just the way that it's going to be. And if there's going to be an app, we have to build it for the 98%. And so for those of you that are in the 2%, if you're going to bitch, moan, cry, whatever, I really don't care anymore. So that's where I'm at. It's an amazing piece of technology. Again, we use it every single week in our own business, but we have to set up some guidelines and some rules, because without them, unfortunately, like I said, human nature gets the best of some people. So after that rant, if you want to go check it out, it's the Driving for Dollars app. It's in the iTunes store. It's in the Google Play Store. And as of right now, you get a 5-property free trial, and it's $34.99 a month. We're going to have some tiered pricing coming in that gives you enough polls to meet the average number of polls that our entire user base has on a monthly basis. That'll be cheaper than that. And then there'll be an option at our current pricing, and probably a higher option as well, so that if you want to do some massive list building in any given month, you can subscribe to it for that amount for that month, and then you can toggle between the tiers as you move forward. And so ultimately, it's going to be a better system, I think, for everybody. So for those of you guys that were complaining online, just think about that a little bit, listen to what I said, and ultimately when it happens, you'll like it. But for the time being, we've had to institute a proverbial cap. Big Brother is watching, and so for those people that are abusing it, we'll shut you down, and that's just the way it's going to be. But for those people that use it properly, and trust me, we know what using it properly looks like, because like I said, we monitor the data, and we've been driving for dollars for 10 years. You've got nothing to worry about. So anyway, the new iteration of it is going to be good for everybody, and you just got to trust me when I say that. Now, the other housekeeping items are our DFA. For those of you guys that want to join our Deal Finders Academy, we'd love to have you. It's $199 a month, a little less than $2,400 a year, and you get to be a part of a mastermind group of 100 and some odd of the best investors from around the country. It's an amazing deal. It's an incredible value. We haven't raised prices in almost 5 years, and we have an amazing core group of people that have been around since the beginning, which says something for sure. But we don't stack people on top of each other, and we've got a few openings in some of the markets across the country. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you, and you basically get on-demand Q&A and insight from all the investors from around the country whenever you post. Our Facebook group is kind of the mecca. It's kind of the place that we do most of our conversations these days, just because it's kind of the center of the universe for real estate investors. But it's a great community, and like I said, $199 a month with no commitments, no contracts. You can come in, check it out, and hopefully you like it and you stick around. But like I said, there's no commitments, no contracts. So we'd love to have you. Reach out to us, and we'll see if we can fit you in. Now, before we get into the interview with Mr. BP, let's talk about what's going on with me and TTM over the course of the past week. Number one is, for those of you guys that are either listeners of the show or in our DFA or in our DFA Launchpad, I will be up in Seattle next month for the Pacific Northwest Big Badass Real Estate Wealth Expo. I think that's what Tarl's still calling it. And I will be there with a booth. Myself and Dan, we have a Real Dealz booth and a Driving for Dollars booth kind of together. So we'll be there. We'll have some t-shirts. We'll have some cool stuff. Love to connect with any of you guys that listen to the show, want to come up and say hi. Thursday, I'm going to try and make it up there for Thursday, and I'll be doing a kind of a small panel with Justin Silverio, I believe, and we'll be talking all about direct sale marketing. But then Saturday afternoon, I'll be taking the main stage and talking all about mastering the skill of direct to seller marketing as well, but just on a bigger stage. I'll have some funny stories, and it'll just be a great time. But more importantly, we'll be hanging out that whole time. We'll be at the booth, and that's where a lot of the fun is anyway, right? You can come hang out with us, shoot the breeze, and talk real estate. So we'll be there for pretty much the entire event, and then of course there's the VIP dinner on Saturday night for those of you guys that are attending that, which will be a lot of fun as well. So look forward to seeing many of you there. Now, what's going on the sticks and bricks front? Well, we're closing today on a new deal, and it's one that we're pretty excited about. It's in Southwest Portland, and it's going to be a pretty easy resale. We'll be hitting kind of just above the median home price, which for us is out of the ordinary. Usually we do high-end stuff, but this will be a quicker turn. We've been balancing our workload with quicker turn stuff along with the longer term projects that we're clearing off the books this year that are, have millions of dollars tied up in them. But we're excited about this one. It's going to be really cool. We're going to kind of re-side it, redo the windows, and it's going to be a cool looking little modern farmhouse thing that we're going to create in Southwest Portland, and it should be a hot little ticket once we get it on the market. So we're going to bang that out, get it done real quick, get it back on the market, and like I said, we're wrapping it up today. Now, on another quick turn project front, we've got probably our biggest transformation taking place to date. We bought a house in Lake Oswego. It was probably the fuggliest house I think I've ever seen, and we had marketed to it. It was a Driving for Dollars list. We've been marketing to it for probably 2 years before we got a call from the owner's son, and then it was about another year of kind of romancing him, so to speak, and kind of staying in contact, and ultimately we bought it. So it was a 3-year sales cycle on this house, and it was probably the ugliest house in the entire neighborhood, and we're in the process of making it the best looking house in the whole neighborhood. So it's fun to do those, especially in good areas where I know people are going to pay us for it, and ultimately the neighborhood is really ecstatic as well, which is out of the norm here for Portland. Most of the time when you do work on houses and they know you're flipping houses, people just kind of hate on you and try and take advantage of you. I know many of you guys that follow me on Facebook or have listened to the show for a while, you've probably heard a lot of my crazy stories, but in this particular neighborhood, every single neighbor is actually very happy. So it's kind of a change of pace. It's a nice change of pace, that's for sure. But more importantly, the house is going to be probably our biggest transformation to date. And that says a lot since we've been doing this for, 10 years or so in terms of renovating houses and giving them a facelift. So if you want to see what that looks like, make sure that you friend me on Facebook. I'll be posting some pictures here very shortly, as that one will be ready for market probably in about 2 to 3 weeks. And it's a good one. It's a good one for sure. So those are kind of the Clip Notes version of what's going on with me, TTM, and our Driving for Dollars app for those of you guys that were interested. So without further ado, let's get into the rest of the show with my man BP, aka the Cash Flow Creator. All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did. All right, everybody out there in listener land, I have a fantastic interview for you guys this week. I have an individual, Mr. Brayand Ponciano. Am I saying it right?
Ponciano. Close enough.
Yeah,
Close
I should
enough.
say it right. Sorry, I'm an asshole. AKA, we'll call you BP, AKA the cash flow creator.
That is
Welcome
right.
to the show.
Hey, man, thank you for having me, Tucker. Really, really appreciate you having me on the show.
You got more nicknames than I do, so I'm a little jealous there. I got to work on that. Hey, before we get into the interview, inquiring minds, including myself, want to know. You've been we obviously met each other and chatted a week ago or so when I was on your show.
That is correct.
I've been seeing your posts in my feed on Facebook for a long time, and I've always wondered, what's up with Bobby Jack?
What's up with the monkey, bro? Everybody has that question. The monkey is a physical manifestation of I don't give a shit what you think about me. You know, a lot of people like to say that. It's become a cool thing to say. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's just become one of these cool things to say. But in reality, I really don't care what people have to say about me. So it started off as a joke. Honestly, an ex-girlfriend of mine had bought it. It started off as a joke. She's like, hey, you got a big head. The monkey's got a big head. I think it's cute. Let's just take him with us when we travel and stuff. So anyway, after we broke up, I kept the monkey because she had bought it for me, and I just kept on traveling with the guy. And it's a conversation starter. It's fun. A lot of people really are able to relate to that, because what happens is that people see it. All of a sudden, they're drawn. They want to ask. What's up with the monkey? What's up with the monkey? So you can imagine, like, whenever I travel, I take the stuffed monkey with me and I sit him in a bar and I just literally order a drink and sit there by myself. Without fail, within a few minutes, somebody's going to come ask me about the fucking monkey. Like, that's just the way it is. So anyway, it helps people lower their guard. It really helps with the ladies. Man, women love this shit. Like, women love this shit that I've gotten laid because of the carrying that damn monkey around.
That's
but
funny.
that's really what's up, though. It's just my physical manifestation of I don't care.
Okay. Well, you got my attention a platonic way. I guess there you go.
And as I said, the secondary thing is it's a very good conversation piece. So when I go, I mean, shit, I was at a mastermind group with very high level real estate people. Some people, everybody in there was at least a 6-figure earner. Most people in there were 7-figure earners. And I literally walked in with my backpack and the monkey. Now, you can imagine that out of that room of 15, 20 people were automatically drawn to want to talk to me. I didn't have to approach them and wait for them and be like, hey, sir, you're Mr. Millionaire. Can I talk to you? No, they were like, hey, what's up with that monkey? So it was just a great conversation starter.
Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way. I was curious, and now I've got a good answer for it.
Awesome. So, great.
So let's rewind a bit. I know we're going to dive into some good stuff on the multifamily front, which is what you're into now, but I want to take it back and really kind of learn a little bit about your start in this business. So maybe tell me, how'd you get started? What did that look like? And then let's move forward from there.
So when I was growing up, I knew that I always wanted to be in real estate. And I remember staying up, especially right about the age of 18 or so. I was staying up late at night and watching the infomercials, Carlton Sheets, no money down type scenarios. And it was just something that just really drew my interest. I knew that I wanted to be in the business, but I didn't know any way to get into the business. And just like most people, I thought that I needed to become a realtor and kind of go that whole trajectory. But honestly, I was so broke that I couldn't even pay for realtor school. I didn't have the $600 for the school and the test that we needed to take. So I just never did that. And I kept on going to these meetings and I kept on looking up stuff and all these different webinars and seminars and everything else. And then I came across a company called Newber Reach, which was basically selling education, real estate education at that time. And I went to a lot of their meetings and I couldn't really afford their product. but I just kind of met people and I kind of got introduced to the concept of wholesaling. All of a sudden, at some point, I quit my job because I couldn't stand it anymore. I went to go work in a manufactured home place where basically you sit in this office waiting for people to come in. They see the manufactured homes, the models that you have out there. Then you go and you show them these hot ass models with no air conditioning in the middle of the summer here in Arizona. I mean, they're little fucking tin houses with no air conditioning. I mean, it's ridiculously hot and nasty in there. And then you go and you try to get them for properties and stuff. Anyway, that didn't work out. I had a lot of free time in my hands because we were literally just sitting at the office with the thumb up our asses waiting for people to show up.
It's like the car lot for old people.
It was exactly the car lot for old people. It was an old dying car lot. Now, this was a big known company. They were one of the bigger companies in that arena. Nonetheless, though, there was really nothing to do. So I was looking through Craigslist and I saw this guy and he said, "Hey, I'm a real estate investor. I'm willing to start a team. And if you don't have any experience, I'm willing to teach you." Honestly, I thought it was another Nuber Reach pitch because that was a lot of their marketing said those type of things. Real estate investor looking for apprentice, that type of shit. So I was like, man, you know what? I got nothing better to do tonight anyway. And if it turns out to be one of these pitches, then hopefully I'll meet somebody there. But whatever, I'll just go. Well, it turns out that this guy was a legitimate real estate investor who was working with one of the biggest wholesalers here in town. They were business partners, and he was splitting up from them. They had creative differences, and he was splitting up and creating his own stuff. And basically, he said, "Hey, man, you don't need any experience. I'm not going to pay you anything. I'll give you a list of leads, pre-foreclosures. You can go door knock, and basically, if you get a deal, let us know. We'll send in our closer so he can go close the deal. And if we close the deal, then you get a percentage of the profit." And that was it. That was basically how I started in the business.
What year was that?
This was 2006.
Okay. Yeah.
I had no experience. I had no anything whatsoever. I done a little bit of sales, a little bit of outside direct sales. So door knocking was really not that scary to me because I was already been used to kind of approaching people. Nonetheless, I just started door knocking. That's all I did was I door knock. And honestly, it took me probably like 6 months before I got my first deal. I didn't get my first deal till towards the end of 2006. And then once I got that deal, then I got another one and another one in the line. But I started off strictly door knocking. It was as I said, he said, I'm not going to pay you for your gas. I'm not going to pay you for your time. I'm not going to do anything other than give you this lead list. And at that time, I didn't even have a computer or a fax machine or a printer. So I literally had to drive all the way across town to go pick up leads to then come all the way back to my side of town to do the door knocking, because being that I was Hispanic and bilingual, I did a lot of door knocking in the hood because there was a lot of Hispanic and bilingual people there. So that's
what kind of list
how
did he
I started.
give you?
It was a pre-foreclosure list.
Okay, so he threw you to the wolves.
Oh my God, it was completely threw you to the wolves, and that's why I said, last time when we had you on the show, I made a bold statement, and I still stand by the statement that if anybody out there wants to guarantee success in real estate in the long run, learn how to successfully door knock. It's gonna suck. It's going to be the hardest, most scariest thing you have ever done, especially for the average Joe out there. As I said, I already had a little bit of experience with direct sales, so I was already more accustomed to just approaching people when they weren't expecting to talk to somebody. Nonetheless, though, just being walking in that situation, because now you're walking in a situation where people are losing their biggest investments. The place where they grew up, or where they raised their family, or where they whatever. There's a high emotion behind that property. So when you show up, especially when you show up in the hood, there's a lot of aggression and there's a lot of deniability. A lot of people play I call it the ostrich in the sand routine, where they just stick their head in the ground and say, la, 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 this ain't happening. Nope, no, this ain't, I'm not in foreclosure. You're wrong. That list is wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. I paid that shit last month. You know goddamn well they're lying. Because you see their name on the list the next week and the next week and the next week after that. So that really, it grew the thickness of the skin. There's nothing scarier in real estate, cold calling or anything else. There's nothing scarier than actually physically door knocking a lead, a cold lead at that. remembering that this was 2006, where they were getting people knocking on their door left and right. Just like people are getting mailers out the ass right now, people were getting door knockers out the ass back then because prices were still going up. Yeah, in Phoenix,
the mecca
ridiculous.
of everything.
Well, and one thing that I tell people all the time is Phoenix is one of the 2 hubs here in the U.S. for every fucking guru. So it's either Phoenix or Tampa Bay. If you notice, pretty much every fucking guru, every big guru comes from Phoenix or Tampa Bay, either the Scottsdale area, whatever. So we had an influx of people out there teaching people this technique. Hey, this is a great way for you to get deals. Just door knock. You can get this list for free or close to free. Just go door knock. So anyway, there was a lot of people hitting these pre-foreclosure lists. And for any of your audience out there that doesn't know what a pre-foreclosure is, basically it means that these people were late on their payments at least 90 days. Once you go past your payments for at least 90 days, your mortgage company has the ability to then start the foreclosure process on you, which normally takes about another 90 days, at least here in the state of Arizona. So basically they say, hey, man, you're in pre-foreclosure. Now you have to pay us all plus our attorney's fees, and you have the next 90 days to do it, or we're going to take the property back. So you were running into a lot of that. We were running into a lot of people just not accepting what they were at, a lot of aggression, a lot of go fuck yourselves, a lot of you don't know what you're doing, you're a scammer, you're a piece of shit, how could you be out here, I'm going through the worst time of my life, and you guys are keep on knocking on my door, keep on calling my phone call, I hate you guys, misplaced direction, misplaced anger, all kinds of stuff that you had to deal with. So that's why I really stand by my statement that if anybody wants to guarantee success in the long run for real estate, learn how to be a successful door knocker.
You know what that reminds me of is, I'm sure you've read it, but the book on how to win friends and influence people.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about how you approach people, and then that causes them to react differently, right? And some people are just going to react angry. That's just what it is.
Of course.
But you can kind of deploy that skill set to kind of make people, let's say, put their guard down a little bit, which I'm sure you were kind of utilizing a lot of those skills without even knowing it after a while there.
Well, I was doing that on purpose. And as I said, I had done direct sales before. So at the age of 22, I needed money right away. And I found this thing on the newspaper that said, make money today. Long story short, we met in a fucking warehouse every morning. They gave us a box full of toys and gadgets and water guns and coloring books, attaché bags, lighters, pens, fucking shades, whatever, dude, just stupid, cheap shit from China. And we would go door to door, business to business, and say, hey, man, blah, 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 blah. Check out this fucking thing. Here you go. Like, nobody woke up that morning thinking, hey, man, I want to buy a cheap water gun from China. But because of me coming in there and making the scenario fun and talking a certain way, as you can imagine, we would get a lot of go fuck yourselves. A lot of you guys are leeches. Stop bothering me. Did you not see the no soliciting sign? What the hell? So I had to learn how to get past that. And I learned for my personality that comedy was one of those things to do it. So fast forward a few years, I'm door knocking. I'm door knocking in the hood. And I started using that as little techniques to get in the door and get people to like me and get people to at least conversate with me. So, for example, I would walk up to somebody's house, knock on their door, and be like, "Hey, man, my name is Brian. By the way, can you believe that piece of crap car, your neighbor? The audacity to have such a piece of crap car just standing out there like that, dude. That is horrible. Can you believe that, man? That sucks. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you about your house. And they just go into it. It caught them off guard. It made them laugh a little bit. Maybe if they were angry. And, a lot of times what happens is that people in the business, they're so desperate for a deal. They're so hungry for a deal that they forget the human element of the deal. They forget that the people that they're talking to are humans, not just a fucking lead, not just a fucking number, not just a goddamn paycheck on the back end. But this is somebody's mama you're talking to. This is somebody's grandma. This is somebody's dad, somebody's son, somebody's sisters, husband, wife, whatever. So you need to come in and talk to them.
The key to the whole direct to seller world is a whole other conversation. But yeah, you're right. The human element is one thing that if you can master that, you can master that world eventually. But it's a big factor, no question.
For sure.
When you went, so you banged some doors, you banged your head against the wall for a while, we'll call it, took some abuse, kind of sharpened your skill set a little more. You landed that first deal. you were working under that other investor. Where did it go from there?
So eventually I made some money. I made probably about $30,000 in the next 2 or 3 months. Mind you, I came from extreme poverty. To me, making $2,400, $2,000 a month was doing okay. Like that was I just came from extreme poverty. So anyway, I made about $30,000 and I thought I was the shit. I thought I was like hot shit. I was like, dude, I can do this myself. We're just door knocking leads. Like I'll figure all this shit out. And by that point, the market was already cooling down because we were doing pre-foreclosures. That was the end of 2007. So long story short, I lost my ass. I completely lost my ass. I actually had to humble myself and go back to corporate America and work at my last corporate job for 1 year until eventually I said, fuck this shit. I'm never, ever, ever going to do this again. I don't care if I told myself I would rather be broke and happy than to have quote unquote security and be miserable. Because everybody that I worked with fucking hated their life. Everybody hated the dude. I was in sales, bro. I was in corporate sales, and my coworkers would bitch and complain when a lead called or walked into the door. Oh, fuck, man, I gotta drop my game so I can talk to these people. I was like, dude, that's your money. We make commission. Like, that's how you know somebody is just over whatever they're doing. So I was like, I don't want to be in that realm. I quit my job and I started a bandit sign company. I remember that back when I was working for that first investor, I was the only one that was from the hood. Everybody there was college educated. Everybody there had a little bit of money for marketing. So people were either doing direct mail or were doing bandit signs. And I remember hearing a lot of my coworkers talking about how they liked the results from bandit signs. They just hated going out there and actually placing the bandit signs. So I started a service to place bandit signs. And I did that for 2 reasons. I did that for A, to make money so I don't have to go back to work. But B, I made that with the purpose so I can start meeting other investors. Because I came to the realization that in 2009, by the time that I got back into the business and I was out there doing the bandit signs, I noticed that a large majority of the people that I used to deal with back in 2006 were no longer in the market, no longer in the industry. And there was a select handful of people that were. So to me, I'm like, man, the people that are still in the industry in 2009, these are some resilient ass creative motherfuckers that I want to be associated with. Instead of me coming to them and begging them for help and saying, hey, man, can you give me a little bit of time? Let me take you out to coffee. Let me take you out to lunch. Let me pick your brain type of bullshit. I said, hey, how can I add value to them and make a little bit of money on the meanwhile? So I created the bandit sign service. And I literally just started placing bandit signs for other investors around town.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, 2009, that's when we went full bore into renovating basically REOs and courthouse step foreclosures and putting them on the retail market. And it was a bit of an echo chamber around here. There was a few guys, but just a few. So I'm sure those that you connected with at that point are probably still in the business now.
Oh, for sure. Dude, this one guy that I remember, these guys, they literally started buying up neighborhoods. Because you were buying houses at the court auctions for like $15,000. They were turning around and renting these same houses for fucking $700 a month, selling them in seller financing, lease options, those type of things. Dude, they were literally buying up neighborhoods with 18% hard money because the market was so low. Now, at this point, I didn't understand financing. I didn't understand money. I didn't understand leverage. The only thing that I knew was wholesaling. I just knew that if I locked up this contract, I could turn around and sell it. And I actually sold that particular business, those particular guys, I sold them quite a bit of properties throughout the year. But now, man, I see that, that same properties that they once bought for $15,000 are now worth, they're selling from anywhere between $170 to $200 in that particular neighborhood. And it's, that was fucking 10 years ago. So yeah, I'm looking at all of these and I'm like, man, that's a lot of stuff that I could have been doing. But at that point, I didn't know any better. I just knew about wholesaling. And that's how I got into the business. I wholesaled. Eventually, after doing the bandit signs, I connected with an investor who said, hey, man, you seem like a really stand-up guy. Like, I really love the stuff that you're doing. We started talking. He found out that I was in the business back in 2006. And he's like, dude, let me bring you in as my vice president. We're going to start rocking and rolling. And I worked with him for about a year or so. But eventually you can't have two captains in one ship, unless you have a legitimate symbiotic partnership, like something that me and my business partner Cashflow Chris have, where we both
tough.
Understand. Oh, it's fuck tough. Yeah, it's tough.
You got to have the right yin to your yang, and when I had Chris on the show, I said the same thing. But I don't do that well with partnerships, mainly because I'm a captain. But it would have to be the right fit. And
and that's the thing is you have to find a captain, but the captain does not like you. Right. Because one of the things that attracted us between me and that other investor, that we were very similar go-getters, hustlers. We're going to make shit happen. But what ended up happening was that we amplified our strengths, but that we also amplified our weaknesses. As with Chris is the complete opposite of me in a lot of ways. So where I come in and I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. He's like, all right, man, let's do the numbers. Let's organize stuff. And honestly, now we've come to the point where he's more of the, hey, man, let's go do this, let's go do that. And I'm more of the, let's just chill back. Let's strategize. Let's take a look at these things. So we balance each other out. He pushes me and I kind of help him focus. I am able to be the front guy. I'm able to be the guy up on stage. I'm able to be the guy in the interviews. And he's able to be what he likes to do, which is do the underwriting, write the numbers, make sure that all the pieces are running together. I'm able to do all the tough, like I have all the tough conversations with all of our investors, all the tough conversations with all of our property managers, all the tough conversations with all of our tenants. Anytime there's an issue, I handle that. Anytime there's an issue on the back end with the numbers, he handles that, the taxes, the information, getting set up with all the other people that need to be done, all the other back end stuff that happens through the multifamily world. But, eventually it didn't work out with that investor and I started wholesaling by myself. And I remember that I made $5,000 on my very first wholesale deal. And $5,000 changed my fucking life.
That was, I guess at that point you had gone back to corporate America, then you gone back to the world of self-employment. So that was kind of the validation point, right?
Yes, that was something where so when I was in corporate America, there was this guy named Andy. We were working in this retail location and there was this girl who used to come in all the time. She was out of a scale from 1 to 10 in just looks wise. She was probably about a 6 and she had really big breasts and she always wore really low cut shirts. But she had these really big breasts and she was always like just shamelessly throwing herself at Andy. Hey, well, I'm going to be lonely today at home and, and it would be nice if somebody would just like come over and hang out and maybe have a few drinks, like literally just rubbing her titties on his face. Like it was just obvious that this girl wanted this guy to hook up with her. So she would leave. And then one time I told Andy, dude, what are you doing, bro? Like, I know this is not supermodel, but man, she's attractive enough. She's got these big breasts. Like, why don't you go handle that? And then he told me something that just stuck with me forever. He said, you know what, man, when I was in high school, I got a chance to be with a solid 10, just an extremely good looking woman. And after that time, I have never, ever, ever been able to go back to regular looking women. And I thought he was full of shit until I slept with my very first extremely good looking woman. And I'm like, God damn it, Andy, you're right. Like, I can't even hang out with regular looking women anymore. Well, if you take that from women to dating and money and business and success, once you know that you can do better, you can never go back. Once I got back into corporate America and I knew, and back into the business world and entrepreneurship, I knew that I could never go back, regardless of how hard this was, regardless of the challenges that was going to come with it. I had already crossed the bridge. I had already burned the boat. It was like that movie. Remember that old stoner movie, Half Baked, I think it was called, where the guy quits his job and he's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. I didn't do it that bad, but I basically did that with everybody that I worked with. So I burned the boat knowing that I could not go back to this job. I could not go back to this business. I need to focus on the real estate stuff and move forward. So, yeah, once I did that first deal, it just opened up a world of possibilities. Because up to that point, all my real estate deals that I had done, I had been working with somebody else. I had been, either working under somebody else or I had been working with somebody else on the deal. This was my first deal that I actually took down, signed the contract, went through the whole escrow process, sold it to the investor myself. And from that point, it just opened up my eyes as to what I could do. And I just took off from there. I probably wholesaled for the other, 4 or 5 years after that. And one of the things that I mentioned on your show was that all of my when you were on our show, was all of our wholesaling that I did came strictly from networking. I didn't do any marketing. I didn't, even though I owned the Bandit sign where I was placing Bandit signs for other people, and I had my own workers. I never once put out Bandit signs for for houses. I did all of my properties came from networking, and I would find individuals in the field that had properties, newbies, or even times I would network and with my own buyers, and I would call them and be like, hey man, what do you guys have? What do you need to do? And they may be like, hey BP, I just bought this property. It's a good deal, but dude, I just got this other property that's just a fucking slam dunk. I need to get rid of this shit. Can you just sell it and give me my earnest money back, or make a few $1,000s, just give me a few $1,000s and you can make whatever else you make on it. I spent 4 or 5 years literally just doing all of my wholesale deals like that with probably no marketing for the next 4 or 5 years.
Were you doing any networking with REO agents to kind of get in with that, or was it just
No, REOs were a little bit of a pain in the ass here in Phoenix, because the banks were not willing to go down to the prices. They started really asking for REOs and short sales for a while there. They were, once the market was kind of on that slow period, they were just refusing to go down to the price that they needed to go down, because it was just so fucking low. The thing with Phoenix is that when the market was rising, we were going up. Without exaggeration, it was about a 2% monthly increase on houses.
Yeah, I remember it was crazy. I mean, you guys
certain new builds
bounced high pretty quick.
Well, yes. Well, that's the thing, is that we went up so high that when it popped, it went down real low. As I said, people were buying houses at the courthouse steps for $15,000. You could buy a property even after a few wholesalers put their fee on it for $30,000. Like that's cheaper than you could freaking build the damn thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's
so
great.
There was a lot of opportunity out there for sure.
So that was that takes you to 2012, 13ish, something like that.
Yeah, right about that area, 2013. I think it was right about 2014 when I started doing my first flip. So I had been wholesaling for a while. One of the things that I did when I was wholesaling is I never created a really large investors list, which I know a lot of people like to brag about. Oh, my mailing list is XYZ. I had a fucking very short list. I had 5 people that I knew. I knew their exact criteria. I knew what type of stuff they would have. So if I would get a higher end property, I knew that I could call these 2 people, and these 2 people that's up their alley. If I got a piece of junk property, I knew this one guy that would buy any piece of junk property in any shitty neighborhood as long as it was under whatever, 40,000, 50,000, whatever that price was.
You got to have a good house guy. I got one here. Cheaper is better.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that so that was one of my ways that I was able to get deals. I told the people that I would meet at networking events, hey man, here's the thing, is I got a solid buyers list, and I'm not going to sell, or they're not going to daisy chain. These are the actual people that are going to fucking buy it. So before you send out your deal and blast it and fucking get a bunch of tire kickers, why don't you let me send it to my guy? I will get you an answer within 24 hours if they're going to take it. And by the way, here's what I'll fucking do for you. If they don't take it, I'll let you know what they told me. So if they're telling me that it's too high, that the comps are not looking good, that blah, 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 then you can go back and make your adjustments and let's make it happen. So anyway, a lot of those people were fixing and flipping, and I saw them continually fixing and flipping. And I'm like, man, you know what? I want to get into that. Like that was always my end goal. And I had such a poor mentality growing up that I always thought that if I would get to the age of like 50 and I was flipping 4 or 5 houses at a time, I would have made it. Like if I could do that by the age of 50, I would have been like, cool, And I'm the age of 36 now. We're buying multifamily across the country. I flipped God knows how many fucking houses. We got to the point where I was flipping 15 houses at one time. That whole thing, man, I was thinking so small back then. I was selling myself so short back then, thinking that if I could just make it by the age of 50 to the time where I could be flipping houses.
Well, let's extrapolate on that thought a little bit, because I want to drill down here a little bit.
Yes, please.
So you met Chris. You guys are now in the multifamily arena, but I want to really focus in on you were doing high volume flipping basically, and now you've pivoted. Why?
We got tired of always having to find the next deal. Because as a fix and flipper, so I did my very first flip, and actually that's how I met Chris. We were friends on Facebook. He posted something that, hey man, I got a free ticket to my mentor, Robin Thompson, out in Ocala, Florida, and you just got to pay your own airway, you just got to pay your own hotel, but I got the free ticket. So I jumped on it and I said, hell yeah. Being that we were two dudes, we just ended up sharing a hotel room, and we needed to rent a car anyway to get down to Ocala from the airport in Orlando. So we just built a relationship, and we continued to work on it. Once I got my first flip, he was already doing flips. So I leaned a lot on Chris. I said, hey man, I called them pretty much every day. My contractor's saying this, they're bidding me this, they're telling me this, blah, blah, blah. What's your experience? Is this right? Is this wrong? Whatever, right? So we built a relationship, but that very first deal, I basically did everything wrong. I went in there and I was trying to be Mr. Handy Mandy. I was in there trying to do all the work myself. I was at the Home Depot choosing out all the paint, all the tile, all the stuff, doing all the stupid shit that you see on HGTV, which especially you shouldn't be doing it at the price point of the properties that I was doing it. Anyway, I basically went broke doing my first flip, and one of my buyers bought a wholesale deal for me, and he said, BP, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, why the fuck are you wasting your time there? He's like, dude, if you want to be successful in flipping, all you got to do is find the deals and find the money. Everything else you can hire somebody else to do. So I did.
Good advice.
Fuck yeah, it was great advice, bro. It took me from doing one flip where I lost my ass basically to learning to do 15 flips at a time. However, as I was looking for the money and looking for the deals, that's all I was doing. I realized that I'm constantly having to look for another deal. I'm constantly having to look for more money for another deal. As I started to grow and go from one house to two houses to three houses to 4 to 5, 6 houses at a time, all of a sudden my private money was running out. All of a sudden I needed my hard money lenders was running out, bro. I needed to go to multiple hard money lenders because my main hard money lender guy, literally, I fucking tapped him out a few times. Like this is 100% true. So anyway, I got tired of constantly doing it because one day I came to the realization that I'm gonna have to do this all the time, and that day happened when I went to fucking Haiti. This was about 2 years ago. I got an opportunity to fly with a bunch of investors. Real estate investors, and one of them had created an orphanage down in Haiti. And I flew down there, and it was just my way of giving back. I have a nonprofit here locally that I run anyway, so it was just a great way to give back and go explore Haiti because I had never been. And I went over there, man, and that trip just really changed my life. It really completely shifted my perspective as to what was important. And I remember that I came back and I told my assistant, we are changing everything. Like, I am tired of this because I need to do more of that. That was life-changing. This flipping houses and shit, man, that's just whatever. That was life-changing. I need to do that. Obviously, though, I still need to pay bills. Obviously, I still got a fucking family. I still got kids. I still got goals and ambitions, and that nobody's going to pay for the traveling. Nobody's going to pay for all the other stuff that I have myself, so I needed to start looking for a different alternative. And that's really where the concept of cash flow came in. That's really where the concept of rentals came in. However, I bought a rental property, then I bought 2 rental houses, like single family houses. And I'm like, fuck, this is going to take forever. If I do this one at a time like this is going to take forever. I need to start looking at other alternatives. And that's where multifamily came into my radar.
Gotcha. So you bought a couple single family rentals. I've got a few single family rentals I have for, God, I don't know, probably over 10 years now. I'll someday soon probably be 1031ing them into more multi stuff. But what did that path then look like? Because I want to really drill down on the or kind of talk about the multifamily world that you're in now. But did you just take the plunge then and just say, fuck it, I'm going for a big one to start out? Or was there like a smaller bridge, maybe like a 4-unit, 6-unit you started with? What did that look like?
I did a little bit of both. Excuse me. So basically what I did initially was I knew that I wanted to learn multifamily and I knew that I wanted to learn cash flow. So I found a guy who was teaching people how to entry level go into multifamily. And his thing was, you don't want to look at anything less than a 5, because anything less than a 5 unit does not qualify for a commercial loan. If you want to ramp up your multifamily business, you can't build it with little fourplexes, because you're going to get tapped out at 16 units. You could only take out 4 loans on your personal name anyway. So he's like, you're better off just looking at 5 units plus. And here's some of the strategies that we use. Now, I decided to jump all in. Literally the day that I went to his class, I came back. I flew out to Boston. I came back and I told my assistant, dude, we are changing everything. I told Chris, I'm done with fucking flipping. I'm not taking on another fucking deal. I'm not taking on another flip. I'm going to be reshifting my focus 100% to multifamily. So my first multifamily property was a 15-unit apartment complex.
Wow. Where was it?
It was actually here in the state of Arizona. It was in a border town called Douglas. So what ended up happening was that the guy teaching the system said, hey, you do not want to buy in your state, for the simple reason that if you do buy in your state, you'll be very tempted to manage it yourself. And if you start managing these properties yourself, then you will never be able to grow to the point where you can build a large portfolio, because you're going to be constantly managing yourself. So if you buy properties that are outside of your state, you're going to be forced to then have to learn how to manage these things from afar. And I was like, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. However, a good friend of mine who I told what I was doing, he's like, hey, man, I got a friend with the 1031 exchange. He's looking for a multifamily deal in these 3 states, and one of them happened to be Arizona. And I was like, all right, well, fuck it. Let me put it out there. So I ended up getting the property. It was too small for what this guy wanted, price point. He didn't particularly like that town. But I just did exactly what the guy that I went to class, that I took his course, I did exactly what he said. Like, I literally copied and pasted his message, and I sent that on an email to the seller. I went down, and he had a very easy formula on how to manage, how to calculate these things, a very conservative formula. And I just punched in the numbers to the formula. I said, okay, well, this seems to work. The guy wanted a little bit more than I was willing to offer. Then we talked and came to terms, and he said, you know what, I'm willing to do seller financing if you come in with, I think it was 20% down is what it was. I needed to come in with 20% down for the down payment, and he's willing to carry the rest he amortized the whole fucking loan for the next 15, 17 years or something like that.
Wow. So did you end up raising private money for the 20% then, and then just took on the seller financing for the remaining, and it had cash flow attached to the debt service on that?
Yeah, so at that point, I did raise money, but it came from just one person. It came from a good friend of mine. I put it out there. Because one of the things that I do is I tend to be very open with everything, and that's why if people are not following me on social media, make sure that you connect with me on Facebook, and also make sure that you follow me on Twitter at Cashflow Creator. But I put it out there, and I was doing my shows, Flipping Fridays. And I said, hey, guys, I just got this deal, man. I got seller financing. This is fucking amazing. This is my very first deal that I'm ever doing, and it's not in my area. So I'm willing to give a very nice deal to the first person that decides to partner up with me. I need X amount of money. Anybody who has it, let me know. My friend reached out to me. He's like, yeah, I got that money. And I basically gave him 50% ownership. Now, had it not been my good best friend, then probably I would have gave them 40% ownership. But nonetheless, I was going to give up a big piece of the pie just for them coming in with the money, because they were taking a chance on me. Even though I had proven myself for all these years with the flips and I knew what I was doing, I was moving into a whole different market. So I learned to leverage that. And one thing that I do want to point out to people is, don't be afraid to pay the fucking price. Don't be afraid to pay for mentorship. Don't be afraid to paying with profits and partnerships. Dude, honestly, if my best friend would have came back and said, you know what, 50%, I don't know, man. That doesn't sound like I'm coming in with all the money. Like, that doesn't, I don't know, man. I think I need a little bit more. Dude, I would have gave that motherfucker 75, 80%. I didn't care.
We'll cut
as long as I got to do the deal. Like, I just wanted to get the deal under my belt, right?
I hear you. I mean, you were venturing into new territory. So it's kind of like, at that point, you've got a blank record, even though you were in the single family world beforehand. So you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly. And I was willing to pay the price. And I say this because a lot of times people come in, they have no experience and say, I'm not going to do a wholesale deal and it's just a $10,000 deal. Shut the fuck up, motherfucker. Just fucking take the money. Be happy that you made $1,000 in an hour. Make sure that you made fucking $1,000, $2,000 with 2-3 phone calls. Like, what the fuck are you complaining about? You know? And honestly, one of my very first wholesale deals, not my first one, but one of my very first ones that I did when I was still partnering up with people, I literally made $500. And I remember my brother was like, oh, that's some bullshit. Dude, look at all the work that you did and you only made 500. And I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck. I just made money with wholesaling properties. Like that, I was more interested in that. So when I was doing the multifamily, I decided to do that. And honestly, me and Chris have taken that philosophy where we're here with our very first few deals. We're giving away more, a bigger percentage, a bigger ownership, a bigger back end than we are going to do it any time past now, because we're getting, we had our first one out of state. We have another one here that we're doing. It's a conversion. It's a whole different concept. So we're offering a bigger percentage of return right now for people because we're still proving the model. We're still proving the concept. And that's one thing that I did with my fix and flip. All my original investors, I gave them a hefty, ridiculously high return, and I guaranteed that return to them, to the first 4 people that took a chance on me. And
you got to take care of the money.
Hell yeah, you do. Hell yeah. So, and especially in multifamily, it's all about the money, especially your investors' money. If you're out there raising money, if you're out there syndicating money, if you're out there putting deals together and raising money from other investors, it's all about them. If you happen to make a profit, awesome, even better. But it's all about them. You need to make sure that you protect their money. You need to make sure that you're able to pay them their money. You may be able to show that you're able to pay them their money back, and you got to make sure that you're able to pay them their interest, because their money is what's going to allow you. You may come from money, but your money's going to run out eventually. Other people's money, OPM, is what's going to allow you to scale up.
For sure. So now we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to get a few more details out of you as we move forward. So we've segued into, you're basically all multi at this point. You said, I'm not doing the hamster wheel of the single family world anymore. I'm doing
that. Right.
What moving forward then are your goals with that? And what do you have on the table that you guys are working on?
So moving forward with multifamily, our first goal was to become financially free. And by the end of this year, we will be financially free. We are done stabilizing our first out-of-state apartment complex. We just bought a new one that we closed about a month and a half ago, which we are actually converting an extended stay motel into an apartment complex. There is a town not too far from my first apartment complex, about 20 minutes outside of there, where it's a very high tourist town. So but there is no apartment complex there. And everybody that rents a house, but a lot of these houses are being rented through Airbnb because it's a tourist town. So a lot of the locals have nowhere to live. So anyway, we bought this, what used to be a motel, and we're actually converting it into an apartment complex. We literally just started advertising, and we've already filled up 6 tenants with a bunch more people setting up appointments to go take a look at that, because just the need is so high over there. Nobody's offering lower, more affordable rent for them. So
is that what you're focusing on then moving forward? Is you kind of acquiring stuff that we'll call it affordable, quote unquote, rent?
We're C-class buildings all the way, for sure. Okay. A lot of times when people get into multifamily, a lot of people tend to follow the Dave Lindahl strategy. There's nothing wrong with the Dave Lindahl strategy, but it's basically all the same. And pretty much all the gurus out there are teaching a variation of the Dave Lindahl, which basically means that you want to get a B-class property or a C-class property in a B-class neighborhood that you can up in a rising market. Appreciating market, right? That is, and you're buying at less cap rates. You're basically hoping and banking on appreciation, and it's a different strategy than what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is C-class, blue collar, everyday Joe Blow people wherever they're at, because those people, they're never going to run out. They're never, ever, ever, ever going to not be there.
For sure. Yeah, one of the things I've noticed is that here locally, we're going to kind of segue into doing a lot of what you guys are doing next year as we clear the deck. But if you build new, you're forced into A-class buildings. If you buy existing, then you have options, right? So,
and that's the thing is we currently work with a hedge fund that it took me many years to build this relationship, but I finally sat down with one of the founders of the hedge fund, and they told us, this is what we're doing. We're buying this, and that. And if they're buying land to develop multifamily, they have to be A-class just for it to make any type of sense. But here's my problem with A-class. As soon as the market makes a correction, as soon as there's any type of recession whatsoever, those A-class units are the ones that are going to take a hit. Those $3,000 a month fucking apartments, those are going to take a fucking hit. Where in our segment, those people are going to be there. The rent is relatively low, and which is another reason why we're very, very big fans of Section 8 housing. Because through Section 8, we already know what they want. We already know where they're coming from. We already know the requirements for the government. And hell, even during the government shutdown that happened here a few months ago, I still got my Section 8 check. It wasn't an issue. So we shifted a lot of our focus over to that for a few reasons, mainly with the C-class. As I said, we feel like we're basically recession-proof on that end. Regardless of what the market does, there's always going to be a need for your middle class, working class Americans. We're not D-class. I'm not buying in war zones. I'm not buying in ghettos, but we're definitely just buying in just your average middle America, just your average town. And that's the thing, that even in a state like Oregon where you live, or even in a state like California where people just normally think of the big cities, you take a state like California, you're like, man, you got San Diego, you got Los Angeles, you got San Francisco, you got Sacramento, you got Oakland. Check out all these big cities. But you don't remember that the majority of people in California actually live in small towns.
Very true.
That is the majority of our country. The majority of our country is middle America. So anyway, man, as we've been going through this and we just seeing the possibilities. And that's exactly what we've been doing. As I said, right now, our current project is that we took down it was a 38 unit motel with 14 additional RV slots in the back. We have now shifted it over to a apartment complex. We're filling those in, and because it is a high tourist town, we've actually converted a few of the rooms to Airbnb.
That's fantastic. I actually I messaged a buddy of mine, Artem, who builds a lot of ground up multifamily in LA area, Hollywood. And I was like, have you ever seen anybody do this? And it was exactly what you guys are doing. And then I saw you guys post that online. I was like, damn, they're doing it. So
yeah. Well, and here's the thing is that the property that we bought in Arkansas used to be a regular motel. It used to be like a Motel 6 or something. Now, we didn't convert it. The guy who sold it to the person that we bought it from. So 2 owners before we bought it, that guy bought it as a motel, and then he converted it, sold it to the seller, who then sold it to us. Anyway, we looked at it and we're like, okay, that's a possibility. There is opportunity here when you take these, because motels will make more money. So a motel will bring in more money per month, but they also have a much higher expenses, and they're also plagued to the seasons, depending on busy season or not, and everything else. And even when your income goes higher, your expenses go higher. Whereas opposed to a multifamily, you can kind of mitigate that process by just spreading everything out. And you don't have people coming in and out of your property. These people are living there. They're taking a little bit better care of your shit. You know goddamn well that if you're renting an apartment, you take way better care of it than if you rent a room for a night. Like that's just human nature. So once we realized that this was possible, we're like, okay, we're going to keep our eyes open. When I came across this deal and we noticed that because it's an extended stay, and I want to make sure that I make that point clear, it was an extended stay motel. Basically, this particular style of extended stay looks like a regular apartment complex. Even the studios that we have they're a big room in the front. They have a separate bathroom with a shower and a toilet and a sink and a mirror, with a separate room for the kitchen with an actual little room for a dining room. And those are just the studios. The 1 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms look like your regular standard 1 and 2 bedrooms and then any regular apartment. So we knew that it wasn't going to take a lot of work for us to transition these units into Section 8 ready apartment complexes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, hey, we're running short on time today. I'm booked at noon, but man,
yeah, buddy,
I got to give you a virtual high five for doing that, because that's really cool, man. And I think what we'll have to do is get you back on the show here in 6 months, 8 months after that one kind of comes to fruition and get it stabilized. I'm sure you'll have another few others in the pipeline as well that may be very similar to that we could dive into some more. But before we get out of here today, what's the best way for people to connect with you? Because they should definitely be following you, and if nothing else, being entertained by you and Bobby Jack online.
So as I said, the best way to connect with me is through my Instagram, because I keep on hitting my 5,000 followers on Facebook. But you can reach me on Instagram at Cashflow Creator. You can follow me there. I'm constantly posting on my stories. You talked about my mastermind meeting. I actually posted a bunch of notes, a bunch of videos and stuff, pictures from my mastermind meetings. And I tend to be very open about everything that I'm doing. So if you're curious about the life of a real real estate investor, what it looks like, an adventurer, a traveler, and as you said, Tucker, there, you can keep up with the adventures of me and Bobby Jack. We're planning on going over to the Philippines. I believe that's our plan for my birthday in May. So you'll definitely be seeing a bunch of pictures of the monkey and all the stupid shit that we do while we're traveling. The other thing that you guys can connect with me is on our show, Flipping Fridays. So if you're not following us on Facebook, make sure that you do, facebook.com/AZ as in Arizona, AZ Flip Guys. And we do a live show every single Friday at noon, which is where we had you on our show here last week or so. We do a live show every single Friday at noon, me and my partner, Cashflow Chris. However, you can also catch us on podcasts. You can find us under Flipping Fridays, and you can find all of our previous episodes from there, including the one that we did with Tucker, which I believe that one is coming up. It's going to be uploaded on iTunes here in the next week or so.
Fantastic. Well, hey, man, I will put links to all of that in the show notes page. And I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join me on this week's show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show. I appreciate you guys there. They were on the they were listening. And by the way, if you're listening in the audience and you do connect with me on social media, please do me a favor and send me a message. Just tell me where you heard me from. You heard me from this show. Just say, hey, man, I heard you from Tucker's show, blah, blah, blah. And then just let me know what you thought about it. I always love hearing feedback from the audience because it helps me do my message. And, we didn't talk about this, but, because you follow me online, that I do a lot of public speaking. I'm constantly speaking at different events. I'm constantly speaking about mindset and that type of stuff. And the last thing that I'm going to put out there is we should come back and do a show specifically on mindset. But for anybody out there that's interested, I do offer mentorship. However, it's not real estate mentorship. I'm not going to teach you how to do a deal. What I do is I help you with your mindset. So if you feel like you're in the business and you've reached a plateau, regardless of what business you're in, and you're looking to just get past yourself, stop defeating yourself, stop being your own worst enemy, then send me over a message and we can talk about that. But I do offer personal one-on-one mentorship specifically when it comes to the mindset. So anyway, Tucker, I know you got to get going. I appreciate your time, man. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and we'll definitely be in touch here soon.
Fantastic. And somebody should definitely send you a message about where your boy Andy is at that only dates 10s.
Yeah, I wish I would still follow up with him. But you get in life what you have the balls to ask for and what you accept. And honestly, man, still to this day, I only date hot chicks. And I tell that to my son. I'm like, I'm not the tallest. I'm not the best looking. I don't have the most money. I don't have the most muscles or any of that shit. But I know that this is what I like. I know that this is what I deserve. And every single woman that I get with, it's an extremely attractive woman. And in addition to that, they're very good people. So I'm not just going after stupid chicks that are hot. Like, I actually meet really good women. But once again, that's because you get what you accept. So, yep. Boom.
Master the gift of gab. You can have whatever you want.
Damn right, brother. Damn right.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate
Great
your time.
show. We'll see you soon.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right. All right. What did you guys think of that interview with Brian? I apologize, Brian. I butchered your last name at the intro. We'll call him BP, a.k.a. the Cash Flow Creator. Sounds a lot cooler anyway, right? But great show. Highly entertaining guy. He's got some fantastic stories. A little bit on the, we'll call it bad language side, but hey, that's reality, right? We had people back in the day when I used to swear a little bit more on the show say, I really like your show, but I wish you would quit swearing. And my response is always, if you can't take it here, you're not going to make it in the real estate trenches. Hate to tell you, all the guys on the job sites, their mouths are 10 times dirtier than mine. And they probably talk a little bit like Brian does, but you got to get used to it. That's just the way that it is in the world of construction if you're actually going to be in the real estate trenches. But that aside, great show. He's gone from the world of, being employed to self-employment to wholesaling to renovating. And now, of course, he is on to the world of multifamily, doing some really cool stuff with there. So we'll get him back here shortly on the show after he sees a few of these multifamily projects to fruition. Really cool model with taking motels and converting them into apartments. Also, we have links in the show notes for all the ways that you can contact Brian and him and Bobby Jack. So for those of you guys that haven't seen pictures of him and Bobby Jack, it's this little stuffed monkey that we talked about in the interview that he carries around with him. It's how he got my attention, so I got to give the guys kudos for that. He knows how to use that thing to make sure that people pay attention, and ultimately that's why we were on the show together today. So make sure that you go check him out and give him a follow. Now, before I leave you guys this week, I've got a closing success quote. And given that we were talking about all kinds of funny stuff in this interview, one of which was his buddy who said that he only would date 10s, I have a funny quote. Maybe not it's a success quote for those of us that are married, but it's a funny quote for those of you that are not. So this week's closing quote, we'll call it, doesn't have an individual who said it. The quote is, 9 out of 10 husbands agreed that their wives are always right. The 10th husband hasn't been seen since the study was conducted. A little bit of life advice for those of you out there that are on the other side of, maybe getting married. You'll get there someday, and pick your battles. Pick them wisely. That's what I got to say for you. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's show. I know that I enjoyed having BP on. We'll have to have him back. Until then, I'll see you all next week.